Well, concerns are being raised today about a new video game which is set to hit stores in the near future. And the point of the game, shockingly, is to commit mass murder.
Gameplay of a game, this has got to be the worst. Appealing to the exact textbook of the profile of a mass shooter from Sandy Hook and the noon shooter out of Atlanta. And they basically want to go out and kill people and then do away with themselves.
The history of video games and mental health has been a relatively tricky one. Since the late 90s, there have been many different violent crimes linked to video games through the media. In the media, it is often portrayed that video games make people more violent and immoral. However, can video games also be a force for good by helping to improve the condition of people who suffer from serious mental illnesses such as depression and anxiety?
I do play video games.
Do I play video games? Yes, I play lots of video games.
I play video games sometimes, but I'm not really much of a gamer.
Daily, for a fair amount of hours a day.
How often? At least every day. It's got to be every day. Every time I get back from college, I play at least 3, maybe 4 games, all for like half an hour to an hour each.
I think they can, in terms of certain mental illnesses. Like there's some that will make worse. Like for example, if you have something along the lines of depression, escaping into a game is not necessarily going to help that. Whereas in terms of helping, that escapism can kind of help some. The escapism in terms of, like, if you have a particularly bad sort of real life, then suddenly being like this different person in a game is really quite appealing.
I do think games could help with certain mental illnesses, but I don't feel they do help now.
When it comes to mental illnesses in games, I think it depends on the game. Some video games, like social games, Wii Fit, family games can help because it can give you a bit of a social aspect, where some violent games can hinder mental illness.
I think some games could make certain mental illnesses worse, or make the people with these mental illnesses trigger them in such a way that makes them do something bad. But no more so than other things in life, such as films. Films can have the same outcome, I believe, and just other things from media, from watching TV, etc. It doesn't just have to be games, but games could trigger something from someone with a mental illness.
Yeah, there's been like, if you play like a game and like, say you become attached to a character and then that character dies, you actively sort of feel emotional, just like going like, no, I want them back.
Yeah, I was initially just gave you something to enjoy, gave you something I was good at. Then I got too addicted to them, got kicked out of school, so I was doing nothing and all I had was games. So for the year of my life, I didn't leave the house. I got really depressed and I got very dependent on a particular online game, and my life was more situated around that than the game was situated around my life.
You go into a video game, you're this new person where you're in this completely different world and suddenly you're like the strongest person in it, and you have complete control. It's not fair because basically when something like that happens, people just want something to blame, and gaming is just like an easy scapegoat for that. Like games have guns, so any shooting automatically becomes, we must blame video games.
Partly, I do believe it is partly fair that some games are blamed for these crimes.
I think for the media to portray video games for violent crimes is a good story. I also believe that a lot of times that video games are portrayed that way is mainly as well for the barrister's aspect, like the legal aspect in a courtroom. If someone can blame a murder on a game, then they can maybe claim that it was diminished responsibility.
I think that gaming not necessarily can put the idea of like a shooting into your head, but if that idea is already there, then gaming can probably sort of push you towards actually doing it.
I mean, I don't know. I'm in between. I don't think games can definitely always have a positive outcome on people, but I don't think they can definitely always have a negative outcome on people.
Again, dependent on game. If it's a violent game, I think and some people, if they've got a vulnerability mentally, can be negative. But on a more happy game like Mario Kart or something like that, it can be more of a positive way.
Outside of work, I'd say I'd class myself as more of a casual gamer, so that's someone that sort of dips in and out of games, picks them up whenever they've got a chance to. I feel that they can help mental illness. It depends on the type of game that they're playing. If people are already prone to violent tendencies, then playing a violent video game, got an 18 rating, is probably not going to be the best idea for someone that's already prone to it. As far as I'm aware and from my own experience, games developers don't necessarily need to take mental illness into account when they are developing their games. It's not like in any specific job description that that this is an issue that they need to deal with. Whether that will change in the future as game development is getting bigger and it's becoming more like a cinematic experience. But there's a moral obligation there. If you're designing a game, you've got to think about if it's violence, like sexual violence, gory violence. You've got to think what's going to be appropriate for my target audience that I'm aiming this game at.
A new study says that video games are totally harmless. The study that was released this week by the University of Glasgow. The headline basically said 11,000 kids tested over 10 years show no negative effects from video games.
House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi has spoken out against the connection between video games and violence.
There's a ton of research that says not only is that not true, but a game like Grand Theft Auto can actually do the opposite and make you a better person.